All right, guys. Well, here I am. I'm sick. Um, I woke up. I went to sleep like sometime in the afternoon, and I woke up and I was just completely covered in like filmed in sweat, runny nose, chills, and I was kind of like shaking in my bed for a moment, just for like a flash second. I thought that I was dope sick in jail. I've woken up like that so many times where I don't really remember how I got there. And it's very common when you go to jail. Even if you haven't been to prison, if you've been to county jail, especially after a run, whether it be meth or heroin or whatever, you kind of wake up and it's very common to have a dream that you're not in jail, and then you wake up and you're in jail. And it just smells like you're living in some sort of fortified fart. There's this very instantaneous, recognizable scent of jail. I'm gonna make a cologne someday that smells like that. Jail for men. It's like, just smells like ass, because that's what jail just smells like shit. But anyway, that's not the point of the story. Point is, I saw Karina next to me, and she's in her little nightgown. It's her little ass hanging out. Again, I thought I was in jail. Looked like a Pisces or something. Now I saw my beautiful wife, and I was like, thank God that I'm not dope sick. I've, by the grace of God, I've come out. I'm not a religious guy. Don't worry, but I do believe in God, and I truly believe He spared me. But I did wake up and feel like I didn't know where I was. It was just being disoriented and just coming to. I'm so fucking grateful that I don't have to live that way, and I know that some of you still do. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've lost a lot of people that I really love, especially Paul. That was the one that just was painful, like on a different level. And I'm grateful that I don't have to wake up, hustle money. What do you mean hustle money? What does that mean? You know what I mean. Never sucking any dick, if that's what you're wondering. You fucking weak. That says more about you if you're thinking that than it does about me. Just having to figure out. I was never one of those fucking guys that could save dope for the morning. I'm not one of those guys. And it gets to the point where you don't even have to do more. You're just like a pig. You're just, I don't feel it, and then you want to do more, and then you're out, and then you wake up like that sick, and then you're just in this nightmare, and there's nothing fucking worse than being strung out on heroin or any opiate for that matter. It's just the worst, having a monkey on your back with what symbols or whatever the fuck those things are called, smelling that very distinct ammonia smell, it's the worst. I don't know. The fact that I woke up and I wasn't dope sick, I was like, you know what? It's the middle of the night. I'm going to do a video. You guys deserve that. Just because I'm sick, I can still do stories, and they help me. I do enjoy doing them. It's not like I don't. Sometimes I feel like it's work. Sometimes I don't want to do it. It really has nothing to do with you. It has to do with, anyway. So, God, these stupid comments come on to distract me. So anyway, I'm going to get tested for COVID in the morning. And I don't know if I have it. This is what it's been, and I know several people that have had it. I don't know. Maybe I do. I have a lot of STDs. I always wanted those too. It's like, yeah, I got that. So what? Because then it means you're really attractive if women will still fuck you if you have a bunch of STDs. Oh, man, that guy's so, I don't give a fuck. I'll get herpes. Suck that dude's herpy dick. I don't care. Small. They always say it's cute. That's how you know you're fucked, you know. It's cute. My dick's cute. Yeah, but your balls are gross. And they stink. And then they always do that thing. So I came back from my trip, you know, from Big Bear. I experienced like the worst fatigue I've had ever. I don't know what that's from. Might be from hepatitis. Not the kind, different kinds of hepatitis. I have the, I have the really, you know, street cred one, hepatitis C. And I think you get one from eating shellfish. There's one you get from eating ass, which I always thought was, that's pretty exotic. Is that Hep A? Or maybe you get Hep A from shellfish and ass. I've eaten a lot of ass in my life. I don't know. I don't know if I have that. I don't think I do. But I always disclosed that to the doctor. Any risky behavior, I was like, I eat ass. So what? Doctors always trip on me because I'm like really honest. You know? I was like, I stick skate tools up my ass when I'm on Adderall. I now have a cough. So anyway, I had fatigue, chills. You know, I started getting chills. I was like, oh, you know, when you get that head, I was talking to Jeff about that the other day. Like when you know you're sick, like when it kicks, it's almost like, it's like a drug kicking in. Like 1 second you're just fine and the head changed. You're like, no, you know that you're sick. Nothing you can do about it. So I have the fatigue, I have chills, but then I got the one symptom that's really alarming is the body aches. Man, I got really, really bad body aches right now. Like it feels like and I haven't been working out because I hurt my hand, which is pretty much healed, but I'm just like letting it heal right now, but like all the way before I start working out again. And, you know, a little depression comes with not working out, whatever. But, you know, I gotta let it heal. So I started getting these really bad body aches and then the chills and a sore throat. I have a sore throat as well. Speaking of which, I'll get one of these Halls. But I don't have a fever. So that's kind of what gives me pause on it. I'm kind of like, well, I have all this stuff, but I don't have a fever. And, you know, don't ever Google stuff. You know, you'll think you have crazy shit that you don't have. I don't think I'm a hypochondriac, but, you know, I'm not scared of germs. No way. I'm a total scumbag. I don't give a fuck. I thrive in shit, you know? Like, seriously, if it was up to me, I'm so lazy and I'm so scummy that I would just put newspapers on my office floor and just take shits. And just leave them there. I don't even give a fuck. Our toilet broke, like, a month ago, and I just, like, you know, the whole time, Karina's like, I tried to plunge it, that didn't work. I put the Drano stuff or whatever, the stuff that, you know, clears out the toilet. I put that in. That didn't work. Karina's like, we need to call a plumber. I'm like, how much is it? She's like, $100. I'm like, no way. Like, as if the problem would just magically go away. And it didn't. And then all these flies, like, came, and I finally got it plunged, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago. And I ended up tipping the guy like $40 too on top of it. So I paid like $140. I don't know. I'm like one of those people. If I get a parking ticket or something, I'm like, nope, not paying that. And then it turns into like $1,000, and then I'm in like jail, and I'm like, I have gone to jail for unpaid tickets. I don't think parking tickets. I don't remember. I think I just refused to pay. I didn't even think that jail was on the table. I think I just was kind of like had an attitude with the judge. She's like, Mr. Leone, would you like a payment plan? I'm like, nah, you know what? Fuck that, dude. Fuck your mom, too. What's up? Lame-ass judge. Bitch. And then I got remanded. I don't know if that ever happened. I made that up, but I did go to jail for tickets. I think it was because I was on probation or something. I don't remember. All right. So let's get into the prison story again, because I know that's what you guys want. So, hey, credit to me for being sick and for still doing a video because I know you guys want one, and I want to do one. I don't know. I woke up, wasn't dope sick. I was like, fuck, I'll do a video. Thank God for that. All right. So where we had left off last time. So I'm at Centinella. I'm in what's called orientation. Now, orientation is, I'm very new to the state system at this point. I don't know much about it. I was at Wasco for a little while, pretty uneventful. And I did get a new charge, but it was a DA reject. You know, like they tried filing on me, but it never came into fruition, which is good. So if I'd gotten that, I wouldn't have been able to go to a 1 yard. But because I had never been in trouble with the state per se, I got a battery in '03. I don't know. I have a number of pretty minor state charges. To be on a one, so the way that the California state prison system works is you have the one yard, which is called a support yard. That yard is pretty much the infrastructure of whatever other yard is at that prison. So say Pelican Bay, for instance, they have a 1 yard, which is called a support yard, and then they have a 4 yard. So when you're on the 1 yard, you do things for the 4 yard. You guys have to stand in a line, show the lifers your dick. I don't know. They give you like 60 cents on your books. I'm like, dude, do I get that all at once or can it be structured? I prefer 10 cents a week. No, they don't. But they make you like, you know, you have to, I don't even know, pick up trash. You have to do plumbing, you know, different jobs that help make that prison run. So there's the 1 yard is the support yard, 2, 3, and 4. At this time, this was 2018. They were doing the integration, as you know, and I was enduring the horror of that. So they're mixing protective custody with general population. Now, of course, people are, you know, comment, they go, well, you're PC. Everybody's PC. I never rolled it up, so I don't consider myself PC, but I do consider myself not solid because I programmed with them. And really, I don't give a fuck. Prison's whack anyway. You know, if you can't understand why I tried to walk the line on that last term because I wanted to be a good dad, then you're a loser anyway. You know, nobody that thinks that like nobody that would put prison integrity over, you know, over their child or being a solid dad's a piece of shit anyway. So I don't care. Whatever. At least I'm honest about it. You're going to get a bunch of people that get out of prison in this integration era and say, oh, no. I did my time in space, dog. Yeah, NASA sent me there. I was housed. We had cell phones. No, PCs? Nah, bro. I was on the moon. You know, you'll hear shit like that. Maybe not the space thing, but you'll hear people just completely make it up, right? Okay, so anyway. I get to this place and you have to do orientation. Orientation is basically them filtering you out or like seeing if you meet the requirements for the 1 yard. Be on a 1 yard, you can't be a liability to the state. You can't be a sex offender. You know, they won't let child molesters on there because they don't have fences there. I mean, they don't have razor wire. You can literally just like, be like, you know what, I'm cool. And just like jump over the little 5-foot fence without razor wire and you're out in like the wilderness by Mexico. They can't have child molesters doing that, you know? Or rapists. They get like in the mood to rape or whatever and they're just like, I gotta do it. And they just go. No, they can't have that. Okay, so you can't have a warrant either. It's all about liability. You can't have anything that's considered too violent on your record. You know, they're not going to let you on there if you have like a homicide or something. Because there's so many bitches on there, you'll kill somebody. They know. They know you'll kill someone. Like, oh, you killed someone in 97? Oh, we can't put you here, man. The 1 yard people are annoying. Because it's like Camp Snoopy, right? I didn't give a fuck. I want to be on that 1 yard. And also, at that point in California State Prison back in 2018. I don't know if they'd done it, but because there was this, they were overcapacitated, right? It got very, 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 very crowded. You remember seeing all those, like, photographs in the newspaper where it showed like 20 dead Ewok Pisces like stacked on each other, and someone's like playing dominoes on their body. It's like, no, well, that's exaggerated, but you'd see pictures of like these barrack style places, and the little walkway in between the bunks were completely filled with, like, there were mattresses on the floor. It's insane. They were overcapacitated by like 400% or something. So Jerry Brown had made, I think, an executive order as governor to, depopulate the California State Prison. They did that in a number of ways. They made simple possession of drugs a misdemeanor. For drug crimes, you do your prison time in jail, which made jails worse. That's a whole nother subject. And they also gave you what's called milestones, where there's different like incentive programs you can do that will take time off your sentence. If you get your GED, they take 3 to 6 months off. If you go to NA classes, if you do it for 2 months or something, they take like a month off, whatever. They also started doing this 33%. Now that drove us nuts at Wasco. Everybody was trying to figure out what 33% meant. Was it 33% of your entire sentence retroactively? Did they take 33% of what remaining time you had left off? However it would work. In theory, if you do a 30-year sentence, mine was 3 years, I'd do a year. So did that mean I'd already been in custody for, 10 months, 2 months, and I'm gone? Nobody knew. So these are the kind of things that I was thinking about when I got to Centinella. Then I get there, and you basically have to go see this committee. It's like a parole board. Remember in Shawshank Redemption when Morgan Freeman's like, I don't remember what he says, but he's basically like, well, I don't give a damn. If I could tell my young self, I'd call him a goddamn fool. Change? What is change? Whatever he said. I don't remember what he said, but that's kind of what committee looks like. You're with like all these different people, like you're with like a captain, a counselor, a case manager. They sit at this table and you basically go there and they tell you what's going to happen. Now remember, Dirty, my cellie, they sent him right to the 1 yard. Me, they didn't know what my charges were. They hadn't gotten charges from Santa Barbara County. They didn't even know what I was in there for. They're like, what are your charges? I'm like, pimping. They're like, well, was that on a minor? I'm like, no. The fuck? Chris Hansen. Ryan, what are you doing at 1 yard? I'm like, hey, Chris Hansen. I was just coming here to talk, bro. Really? Not according to your text messages, you're not. Are there cops outside, Chris? Yeah. You leave here, you're getting arrested. So why don't we just have a talk? I love that show. Fuck yeah, Chris Hansen. You're a good guy. I think everybody likes that show. How could you not like that? I wonder if Chomos watch that. Like how serial killers watch CSI so that they can like get tips. You think Chomos watch that and they're like, whew. Didn't they hate Chris Hansen? The way that like drug people hate cops? Probably. They probably hate him. Chris Hansen is like the Hitler of anti-Chomos. It's probably offensive to some people. I didn't mean that. I don't like Hitler. Chris Hansen's a good guy. Anyway, so basically I didn't know what my charges were. So I'm like, wait a second. I was in reception for months. My counselor sent me here. How the fuck do you not know what I'm in here for? Well, we don't know. They pretty much, I had to wait there. This is after I've been in those riots. So I'm like, I'm freaking out. Then Dirty leaves and I'm stuck in there. Now, Dirty's a good guy. He left me his ring that he had sold for $50. He left me like $200 worth of store. So I was stocked up in there, and then I had, but I was by myself and I had just kind of made the decision that I wasn't going to go back. I wasn't going to go back to the yard or to Chow. I was just going to sit in there and ride it out. Now that's the scary thing about that. There are these like shelves in the locker and I had all these soups stacked up and I had like a couple bags of these like spicy Cheetos and, a couple bags of like tortilla chips. I had beans, rice, and it was like a nice healthy supply and I had coffee, but every day I was eating 5 or 6 of these like sodium rich concoctions of just straight bullshit. You know? It's like eating Taco Bell 5 times a day. You start just feeling like shit. I'd start burping farts and shit, you know what I mean? I'd be like, and like shit would come out of my mouth. And then they let me go make a phone call, and this crazy Southsider chases me across. Dude, that guy was gonna like kill me. And I go up, and then they close the door on my cell. And I think that's where we left off. Okay, so now I'm in the cell. I'm by myself, and I'd say of all the prison time that I've ever done, that was one of the hardest periods because I was legitimately terrified. I had food, but it was almost like a wick burning, you know? Like, well, when I run out of food, what am I going to do? Cannibalize myself? Cut off my dick with a sharpened toothbrush and make poetry about it? Be that guy? You know, I was in prison, I cut my own cock off because I was scared, and then I ate it, and then I made this rhyme about it, brother. Cock in my rock. A hairline full of socks. And you know, you're like at some smoky lounge, and like, you know, some librarian looking chick is like, I like anal. You're like, yeah. And then you guys get an apartment together and watch Robert Altman films. All right. This is some weird shit. So, I stopped, you know, going to chow. But the thing is like, I want to talk to my chick so bad. I didn't even give a fuck. I was like, okay. In my mind, I was like, every time I go use the phone, I gotta get in a fight. It's worth it to me. I mean, when you truly love someone like that, like just hearing her voice would like give me so much comfort, and it would make my entire day. Just being able to talk to her for 15 minutes was like, you know, it felt like, I don't know, it always felt a lot faster than it was, you know? But, I mean, for me, that was the highlight of my week, you know? It filled me with so much joy. It was worth it to get smashed out by some, hey, Don, you're a fucking PC bitch, fool. And I'm like, now what am I supposed, you're a GP bitch? I'm like, dude, I'm not even PC, but whatever. Okay. You know, it wasn't worth it to me. So, and also, by the way, with that, any relationship, you're going to argue. You're going to bicker. I'm probably one of the harder people to live with. Every woman I've dated has told me that. Every dude's like, you're cool. But girls are like, hey, you know, I'm sloppy and I'm a know-it-all and I can be annoying. I don't shut the fuck up. And of course, Karina does things that makes me mad. But every time that we fight, I think about this period right there. When I was at Centinella, in the hole, scared for my life, honestly. I really thought that I could be killed there, and I could have. State prison had no business in mixing populations and then making me a target to these people that just, you know. And I'll think about that. I'll think about how much I valued those phone calls. And I can forgive her. You know, I'll be like, you know, I need to go cool off, and I'll cool off, and I'll think about stuff and like how much I really do love her and how good she was to me when I was in prison. So I'm in my cell alone, and I had the book Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. I also had Swan Song by Robert McCammon, which is a convict favorite. Anybody that's done prison time, you've probably read Swan Song. I'd never read it. I'd been to prison a bunch, but I'd never read that book for some reason. So I remember reading those books, and they're both like very long and epic. But it was very hard to concentrate, you know? I'd be reading, and then I would just think about getting smashed out by homies. Hey, this fool squeals like a fucking pig, fool. Stupid ass. You're stupid, you know? Just beating me up. And that's the kind of shit that I would think about. Every time I went to sleep, that door would open. That magnetic door would come open in the morning. And I just hop up, eyes wide open, slam the door, and my heart would be beating every time. Because in theory, they could just run up in the cell and just start booking my ass. You know? Somebody had commented, they're like, this guy's full of shit. How would they have knives at this place? Because there's a fucking 4-yard right there. It's like super easy to get thing from yard to yard. You've never done time. All right. If you don't think that's, if you don't understand how that works, that's just how it goes. You know, people, there's ways to get things to other yards, and that's, you know. So a few days go by, and I'm just kind of waiting for, you know, I guess them to call me to use the phone. That's like the one thing I'm waiting for. I hear riots cracking off daily. Every time a new bus comes, you know, and it's like to the point where I'm desensitized by it. Like, the siren will go off and I'll just like read with my legs crossed. I'm like sipping chai tea and shit. I'm like, ooh, sounds like those boys have it rough. You know, there's like, in my mind, there's classical music playing and shit. It's like this nice, comfy home atmosphere. So one day, a few days go by like this, where I'm kind of like getting in the routine. You know, I'm like I'm working out by myself. I'm reading. I'm giving myself bird baths. Tons of masturbation, of course. And one day they call me back to committee. I'd already been to committee and they'd like turn me down. So they call me to committee and I'm just like, you know, my door just opened. So like I'm laying on my bed reading and the door just opens. On the PA it goes, Leone, committee. I'm like, ah, nice. They probably, you know, got my paperwork and now I'm going to get sent off to the 1 yard. So I, you know, kind of like splash water on my face, put some deodorant on, kind of like make my hair look good because I'm going to be around a bunch of dudes. And I go down the stairs and I see like 8 or 9 essays. No idea what they are. GPS and Y. It doesn't really matter what they are. They're all mead mugging me. They're all just like, and I'm like walking down the stairs and the closer I get to them, the more like hungry the wolf's eyes look, you know? It's like, you just see these big, like, you know, brown eyes just like, you know, super intense on me. Like the intensity freaked me the fuck out. I'm walking down the stairs and I'm looking at them and in my mind I'm like, yeah, I can't, there's like 9 of them. I'm gonna get smashed out right now. But I just walk right back to my cell and I slam the door. I'll show them. I'll just stay in the cell forever. I'll go back and read my book. Door opens again. Leone, there's no refusing committee. I go and I look. They're still looking at me. I do the same shit. I walk halfway down the stairs, look at them, those brown eyes just burn with intensity. And I go right back to my cell and I slam the door. I'm not going. Fuck that. I'm not doing it. You know, both times I try to kind of like psych myself out, like kind of pump myself up to do it. There's no way I'm doing it. Fuck that. Can't do it. Okay. So now I'm in my bunk, you know, and a cop comes up. Now they already took these guys to committee. Knocks on my cell. It's like, what's up, Leone? Why are you not going to committee? And I'm just like, dude, I don't feel well. I'm just going to stay here. If committee really wants to see me, they come to me. He's like, okay. And he just left. All right. So that happened. And I'm like, relieved, but at the same time, I'm thinking, all right, for me to leave this place, I'm going to have to see committee. Every time they have committee, they're mixing me with the group. So it's the same concept of going to chow and being mixed, but this is even worse because I don't even know who's who. I don't know what these guys think of me. I don't really know what my situation is at all. So I kind of just stay in my cell, and in my mind, I've kind of like come to the conclusion that it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm like, the worst case scenario, I've been down 9 months now. Worst case scenario is that I have to do 9 months by myself in the hole. What's going to happen when I run out of food? Doesn't matter. It's the same junkie mentality. I'll figure it out tomorrow, but I'm not going to leave. I'm not subjecting myself to that. People have gotten killed so many times in prison by getting jumped. I'd rather get stabbed than jumped. And if you get stabbed in prison, you're probably not going to die. The knives aren't that crazy. They're can be metallic and they can be serrated or whatever. And you rarely hear about somebody getting stabbed to death. But what you do hear about is somebody getting hit in the head wrong and dying. Just had a baby. I'm just not doing it. I don't give a fuck either about my ego at this point. Like, I'm already humiliated from this whole situation. Like, my ego hurts so bad because I'm labeled PC. For somebody that grew up in the system, I'd always been general population, and now I'm on the other side now, and that's the kind of stuff that I would think about in the cell. I'd be like, well, like, what are my homeboys going to think about this when I get home? Because I'm not the kind of dude that's going to get out and lie to them about it. I'm not. I got friends like Matty Donahue, dude that raps his blasé. Like, that guy's about as fucking hardcore as you can get. What would someone like that think about this? But in that same token, he's a good father. So these are the things that I would think about. Eventually, a new bus comes. So this is like maybe like another week. So now I've been in there like 2 weeks. I haven't got another phone call either. It's the thing about Centinella and about prisons in general is even if you have something coming, a lot of times you don't get it. These cops weren't particularly happy with me either because I was refusing to go to committee. And, I didn't know that I don't know what I thought. I don't know if I thought that if I went to committee that I was going to get out. That they were actually going to release me to the 1 yard. I don't know if it's going to be bad news, but again, I'm not going to put myself in that situation. So this new bus comes and, I see this kid, he's probably like my age, and he has like long brown, he has like, he's got longer, he looks like Keanu Reeves kind of. Definitely not that good looking though. Like a shot out tweaker. It's like Keanu Reeves' brother that, I don't even know if he has a brother, but if he did, his like tweaker brother that goes and talks to high schools. He's like, yeah, my brother was in the Matrix. You may have heard of him. His name's Keanu. I'm Kyle, his tweaker brother that used to get butt fucked at truck stops. But now I'm clean and now I'm talking to you about it because my brother's famous. And then like, it's the kind of guy that like sells headshots after to the high school kids. So the high school kids are like, dude, check out this headshot I got of Keanu Reeves' brother. He used to get butt fucked at truck stops when he was a tweaker. He looked like that. If you know, you know. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So that guy comes in and he's like, maybe, I don't know, he's like diagonal to where I am. So him and I can like do sign language. And we start talking right when he gets there. And I ask him if he's GP or SNY, and he says he's SNY. Shocked that I'm in a position where that's what I'm looking for. I'm like, hey bro, you're a piece of shit? Because I guess I am now too, so what's up? And he asked me for a book, and I shot him one. I gave him a book. Right next to him, there were these two Southsiders. Now, these were super duper serio Southsiders. And they would like, just, they'd like read my sign language, and I'd like tell them in sign language, I'm not talking to you. And they were kind of like talking shit to me. They'd say, fuck you. I'd be like, oh yeah, fuck me. And I'd start like doing sign language. I'd like go off on them, start doing sign language in Spanish and shit. And, these two guys looked like they were gonna, like they wanted to kill me. Like every single time that I'd pop my head and look through the window and talk to this dude, his name was Chubbs, the Keanu Reeves Kyle guy. every time I talked to him, they would just be staring at me. It was like a really like constipated gangster look, like, "Ooh, we're gonna get you," and I'm just like, all right. And so I like talked to them and was like, "Hey, are you guys GP or SMY?" They're like, "Hey, we're active, you piece of shit. Fuck you." So it got to a point where I was talking to this guy Chubbs like every day. And I sent him a kite, you know, and I was like, "Hey," you know, I gave it to Chew. He's like, "Hey man, you want me to pass a wheeler for you?" He just didn't sound right saying wheeler, you know? It sounded like, and it kind of like when your parents try to sound cool. Your dad's like, "You know, I've been listening to Snoop Doggy Dogg. I like him. I don't like him as much as Patsy Cline, but I think he's pretty awesome." I'm like, "Dad, that guy hasn't been cool since like 91. Kind of like that. "Hey man, you want me to pass a wheeler?" So he ends up sending one to him, and so I asked this guy, and so I didn't know that like I didn't even know that like sex offenders couldn't be there at that time. You know, when I think SNY, I think Tekashi 6ix9ine. Rainbow-colored rapist rats. That's SNY to me. You know, certainly not like people that have gone there over... And people will lie to you. You know, the more I was around SNY people, they'd be like, "Yeah, man, I'm SNY because I won too many fights. State just didn't, you know, I was actually registered as a lethal weapon. My hands. That's why I'm PC now. Every time that I get out, I beat up actives out there, man. I go find them on the block and I beat up actives." And then like every time you talk to them, their story changes. It's like more and more actives that they beat up. "Yeah, man, I beat up 6 actives when I was out." And then like the next time you talk to them, "Yeah, man, last time I was out there, I beat up 17 actives. And then like you talk to them, they're like, "Dude, it was an active fucking genocide, homeboy. All of them died. Fucking solid ass motherfuckers. Pieces of fucking solid shit." Yeah, and you'd be like, okay. So I asked him what he was in there for. He sends me this convoluted it was like reading the Unabomber's manifesto or something. And it was like some like super long story about how, I don't remember what the fuck it was. It was like something like somebody thought he stole a quad or like a lumen or like a catalytic converter. I don't know, some tweaker shit. Like, "Well, they thought I stole a catalytic converter, but I was really just peeking, you know, through the window to see if someone was on the other side of it. But I happen to have the catalytic converter in my backpack. And then I went to jail, and then the guy that I stole the catalytic converter from, he was in jail too, so now I'm PC." And I was like, I mean, it sounds believable. Maybe that is what it is. So I wrote him back, and I was like, "You sure you're not like some weirdo?" "Oh, no, I ain't no weirdo." So they always say, I ain't no weirdo, bro. Because I was considering living with the guy for completely selfish financial reasons. I was like, well, and I wrote him, I was like, "Do you have store?" I wrote it to him like when you write a girl that you like, "Do you have store?" And there's like 3 boxes, yes, no, maybe. And you wrote maybe, and I was like, "That sounds good enough to me." And now he wrote me back. He's like, "No, I haven't gone to store yet, but like I know this girl that I dated in like 2004, and I wrote my mom, and she messaged her on Facebook, and I'm just waiting to hear back, but I'm pretty sure if she writes me back, I'm gonna get money, dog. I'm gonna get money." They're like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And you know, the fact of the matter, the honest to God truth, is that I was fucking lonely. I have mental health issues. I am not cut out to be by myself. Time I'm by myself, I start fucking my imaginary friend Mandy. Sometimes we have sometimes we have threesomes with her friends that are also imaginary. And she's like, "Can Fred come?" I'm like, "No, dude. It's gotta be a chick." "Okay. Why are you talking like that?" So anyway, you know, I asked him to move in with me. And I basically said, like, in the kite, I was like, "Look, I always tell people this when I live with them in prison. I go, look, man, I'm a dirtbag. I'm not going to change. I'm messy. I fart. I smell like shit. And I jerk off a lot. If you're awake or if you're not awake, it doesn't matter. So he moves in with me because I'm lonely. And at first, it was cool. I had someone to talk to. He moves in with me, and former tweaker. And he starts telling me kind of funny stories. And I'm telling him stories. So we kind of like have that kind of thing going on. You know, he tells me this one story that I'll never forget that was fucking funny. You know, about when he was tweaking in San Francisco and he like went on a bus. You know, he's like, I've been up for like 7 days. And I was barefoot. And I was walking on the hilly streets of San Francisco, and then I went on the bus, man. And this black guy just looked at me and was like, hey, Chubbs, what's up, man? And he's like, dude, he knew my name, but I didn't know him, you know? And I guess it's one of those things where the story probably doesn't sound as funny. Like, just saying it out loud sounded lame to me just now, so you guys are probably like, that story sucked. It did, you know? Only I can tell stories. Nobody else in the world can. But no, he had some good stories, and I had mine. So the difference between him and I is that he claimed that he was Native American, but he would look white as fuck. He looked like Keanu Reeves, if, like we said before, like an unattractive version of Keanu Reeves. I just said that another man was attractive. So what? Keanu Reeves is a good-looking guy. I can say that. I'm comfortable with my sexuality. So anyway, at first he was fine. And the difference between him, like I said, is that he claimed that he was a native. He's like, dude, I'm a chief, bro. And, you know, like a couple times guys would be walking by that were on the 3R. Now remember, we're on an S&Y 3. So we're seeing the weirdest people you could possibly... These are sex offenders that are on the 3. We were in orientation, so we're locked in the cell. So, like, the people that were being considered to go the 1 yard couldn't be sex offenders, but the guys that were on that 3 were for sure sex offenders. You know, A Christmas Story? They all look like Ralphie. Even the black dudes look like Ralphie. They all had, like, those glasses on, and they're like, I just want a BB gun. You know? Like, those kind of fucking guys, where you look at them and you're like, those guys are for sure sex offenders. And I remember an Indian came up, you know, a Native American Indian. Are you allowed to say that? Is politically correct? I don't know. An Indian. Nothing against Native Americans. I like them. But I don't know how to say it, you know, non-offensively. So anyway, this Indian guy came up, and Chubbs was like, hey, brother, I'm a chief too. You know, I go to the smoke lodge and whatever he was saying. And the Indian guy was talking to him. He's like, what tribe are you on? He's like, I'm not in a tribe. I'm just like an honorary native. And I was like, what the fuck is that? See, this is the thing about that guy. He hid behind the fact that he was Native American so that white people wouldn't beat him up. It's a classic move. I respected it. I was like, I see you. And he would go to chow. Now, I wouldn't. I'd be like, I'm not going. Sorry, call me a bitch. I'm not going to go get killed at chow for no fucking reason. I mean, he'd go to chow every meal. You know, he didn't have commissary. And I shared with him because I share with any cellie because that's just how I am. But he would go to chow, you know, and he would come back and be like, dude, oh my God, the craziest riot just cracked off, bro. It was so cool. You should. I'm like, I don't even want to be. No, I'm not going to put myself in that situation. So he started going to chow. Then he started going to recreation. Because when you're in orientation like that, you're allowed to go to recreation once a day. So he had much more balls than I did, right? Whatever. So around this time, a cop comes up to me. Now I have this dude as a cellie. And he's like, look, Leone, you can't stay here forever. You got to go back to orientation. He's like, I know that you don't want to be put in a situation where you're mixed with any of the actives or whatever. But, you know, I can assure you, if you don't go to orientation, you're never going to get out of this spot. So he's like, tomorrow there's a group going. It's only 3 guys, and I think you're going to be okay. Will you go if it's a smaller group? I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, dude, if it's not fucking 9-on-1, no, 3-on-1, at least the odds are like, okay, that you're not going to die. Like, I mean, still very likely 3 adult men that have been working out for God knows how long. There's still a very good chance that you're being put in harm's way. So I'm like, you know what? I'll go at 3. And Chubbs is like, I'm proud of you, man. I think you should do it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm dreading this shit. You know, that night, Chubbs goes to chow, comes back. He's like telling me these stories about like how all these people got just smashed and how he got maced, and sounded like the same shit that I was freaked out about, you know? And it was hard for me to sleep that night because I just know intuitively that something fucked up was going to happen the next day, you know? The next morning, they call chow. Chubbs goes, yet another little riot kicks off. And I end up going to chow, or to committee. You know, they call me sometime after breakfast. I go down and it's 2 Southsiders. Yeah, it was 2. There were only 2 of them and me. So it was 3 altogether. I thought it was going to be 3 of them, but it was 2 altogether. It was 3 with 2 other guys, including myself. One of them was like a smaller, kind of looked white, you know? He was like bald. His name was Wedo. The other guy was like taller Southsider, was like kind of long black hair, like raven black hair. Can you say that about a guy, or is that just like in like vampire erotica? You can say that. Raven black hair, whatever. So I'm going down the stairs and I'm looking at them, you know. They're mad dogging me, you know. I remember, you know, you have to walk with your hands behind your back. So I have my hands behind my back, but I have my fist clenched up, you know. I was like, all right, I need to get the fuck. I'm going crazy in here, you know. Especially, you know, Chubbs and I would like bicker. You know, you just, I don't know. Sometimes you live with someone and you just can't take it. And it was like already getting like that. I'd only lived with him for like a week or something. And he was already getting on my nerves. You know, you just tell me these crazy ass stories. For instance, let me tell you this before I tell you what happened with committee. Oh, he told me a story about, so he was from Humboldt, which is like, if you're not from California, you've probably heard of Humboldt County. It's like the marijuana epicenter. It was for a long time until it got legalized for recreation. Now, actually, Santa Barbara is becoming one of the bigger ones. See, it's just a booming industry in California, which is great to see. I definitely am pro marijuana. I think you can still use it medicinally while you're in recovery, despite what everybody says about it. But anyway, he told me the story about how one of his friends, because he was of course, anyone up there grows pot, and he was friends with other marijuana growers. And what had happened is, when it's in season for outdoor, it yields twice a year. I'm not a weed expert, but that's what I think, you know, I'm under the impression that it was like that. During that time, when marijuana, when these big outdoor operations yield, they will find people to trim. Everybody knows that when you grow weed, you have to trim it. It's a very tedious, annoying job. You have to basically prune the plants and get them into like nice dildo-looking buds. Isn't that funny that that's what I relate weed to? A beautiful, beautiful plant. But, you know, you got to get it into the buds. So one of his friends had a fairly sizable operation, and he had found some like transient people to trim for him. You see that a lot up in Humboldt. You'll see people like with like cardboard signs that says, I trim. And they're just like, you know, hippies or girls that, you know, don't shave their armpits, stuff like that. Still hittable if you're on meth, whatever. And these guys like trim for him, you know, which is, like I said, a long, long, tedious process. After he was done, he owed them money and he didn't pay them. Right? So what happened is they came up and they robbed him. So he had just harvested. So he had like over 100 grand or something. Probably like, I don't even remember, like 130 grand, like a lot of cash. The guy went up and they robbed him. He knew that they had done it and they were staying somewhere, you know, like this was like up on some mountain or like a hill or something. And they were staying in a small town below it. He knew that it was them that had done it. I think he had a camera, something like that. And what ended up happening is he killed them. He murdered them. You know? And then he had asked this guy to give a testimony saying that he was with him that night so that he couldn't possibly be the guy that had killed them. So while he was in jail, this is what he told me. Who knows what the fuck's true. While he was in jail, they like called him in to testify, you know, for this case. And they sent a private investigator. And the private investigator was a woman, supposedly an attractive one, allegedly. And she had come and visited Chubbs while he was in county jail up there. Now, this guy is the kind of guy that spits game to any woman. Doesn't matter. There's a vagina, he's hitting on it. Doesn't matter if it's a 90-year-old woman. I'm not going to say he hits on teenage girls or anything, but, you know, any woman that's legal, let's just say. And I have no idea if he's a weirdo. Maybe. Who knows? He's just one of those guys. Everybody knows guys like that. Doesn't matter. That guy does not discriminate. He'll fuck anything. And so when this private investigator comes to talk to him in jail, he starts hitting on her. And he told me that she's flirting back. It's disputable. So he gets to, I think he did reception at San Quentin. Yeah, he did. He did reception at San Quentin. And he wrote her some love letter. Now you see this shit happen all the time in prison with COs. Guys will write these like insanely inappropriate, not romantic letters like, every time I see you, I want to ram my cock in your throat and look at your pretty eyes because I'm in love with you. They'll write stuff like that. It happens all the time. Creeps. Well, he had written her some letter. I'm not saying if it was graphic like that. I have no idea. And he was telling me that he knew that she loved him back, but she hadn't written him yet. So one day, within the first week that he's in the cell with me, he gets a letter from that office. That was a private investigator that worked for an attorney. And he told me that the girl that he got a letter and he's like, dude, he's like, this is from the attorney. I was like, or from the private investigator. I was like, really? He was all excited. He's giddy like a schoolgirl. He goes in his bunk and I'm just reading and I just hear sniffling and crying. He's in the bunk above me, so I start kicking. I was like, hey, what's wrong? He's like, nothing. I'm like, well, what'd she say? Does she want to hook up? Does she feel the same way you do? He's like, yeah. Remember that. So I'm going to tell you what was in that letter because I fucking read it at a later point. It's important for what goes on later in the story. So he gets this letter. He basically had like hyped it all up, like this girl, he sent her just such a, he's like, it was so eloquent, it was so well written, she has no choice but to love me back, my brother. I was like, well, sounds like you're a sex offender to me, bud, but okay. It's very strange what you're saying. I think if she really felt that way, she would have written you first, right? No. She doesn't trust her own feelings. He would say shit like that. I was like, okay, whatever, dude. So they ended up calling me to committee with these two guys, right? One of them's name was Wet Eye. Can't remember what the other guy's name was. They're mad dogging me up. My hands behind my back, clenched up. They bring me outside. Now, the whole time I have my hands behind my back, and there's a cop walking in front of us, not behind us. So it's the guy with the raven hair, this shorter guy, Wedo, and then me in the very back. Nobody can see that I have my fist clenched like that, but I can see these guys have their fists clenched like that. I already been to committee, so they take you through the yard. I knew exactly where we were going. They take you through the yard, then you have to make a left. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, these guys are going to move on me before we turn into that building, because it's this blind spot. There's like a gun tower, but right when you turn, that's like where people would attack you. I've heard this because like Chewy, hey man, that's where people attack you, bro. Nah, I don't do stuff like that. That guy. That's what he told me. He's like, hey, if they're going to get you, it's going to be when you turn into committee. So I have my fist clenched. I'm ready to go. And we get to that turn where we're going to go into committee. They open the door. Right as they open the door, both of them spin around on me real quick. But I'm already ready. I spring up. I hate to do this to you guys, but we'll get into it in the next story. That's lame that I did that, huh? So I gave you guys an hour. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out patreon.com/Ryan Leone. I'm proud of myself for making myself do a story. But if I just tell you what happens right now, then I will have something to tell you in the next video that is a good story. I kind of like tell you what was going on leading up to that. So go ahead, leave your fucked up comments. Tell me what a bitch I am, even though you watch all my videos. Do all that. I love you all. I really do. I respect you. I feel like shit. I'll let you know if I have COVID. And if I do, that's cool, because maybe I can do a video on it and the video will go viral. Palabra.